Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the channel. My name is Rain, and today I'd like to talk about a game. Oh, what a game it is. Now, this isn't going to be like very in-depth commentary about this game. Kind of just shooting the shit like a friend talking to you about something they just played, so it's going to be very scuffed, very chill. So kick back, relax, and let me tell you about this wonderful game. So I was searching through my Steam library to find games that I could cover and play for this channel. Something exciting, something that I hadn't played before. And I was scrolling for a bit and I found this game called Blades of Time. And I've actually seen this game before in my library. It said at the time that I had like 10 minutes in it or something. So I had tried the game. I think it said back in 2015 or 2018, maybe somewhere between 2015 and 2018. I tried the game, but literally only for a couple minutes, and I put it down. I wonder why. So when I go on the store page for the game, the description says, Ayumi, the gorgeous gun and sword-wielding treasure hunter, sets out on a journey to an ancient island in search of new adventures. While rich in bounty, the island is also filled with the magic of chaos, being at the same time home to bloodthirsty monsters. Now, this game does look a little generic. However, I was looking at it and has a very, campy, very sexy, very fun-looking main protagonist, Ayumi, and it seemed reminiscent of a lot of early 2000s, not early, but 2000s and early 2010s games like Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, and Tomb Raider, things of that sort. Definitely seems to draw a lot of inspiration from those games. And this game in particular also reminded me a bit of the movie Sucker Punch, maybe because, the main character is a gunslinging hot blonde girl, kind of a bimbo too. But yeah, so it definitely piqued my interest, and I certainly wasn't expecting this game to be like amazing or anything, but I was hoping maybe I could have some fun with it. Maybe I can, play through the whole thing and, have some kind of good things about it that I'd like to talk about. Spoiler alert, I did not finish the game. I could not force myself to finish that game. It wasn't terrible. I just kind of got to a point where I was like, you know what, enough's enough. But it wasn't terrible. There were some things that I did like about it that I do want to talk about. So the first thing I'll kind of talk about is the story and the world. And honestly, it looked like, although it looked generic, it seemed like there could be some nuggets of good and interesting and unique things about, maybe the story and the world and things like that. And unfortunately, it didn't really feel that way. The story itself is, at least as far as I got into the game, I don't know how long the game is, but I played about 3 hours. It's very generic, as to be kind of expected with the game, but it just, on top of being generic, it just felt pretty uninspired and, not really like it was trying to push the boundary in any way or trying to do anything original. It definitely gave the vibe of kind of a slop game that just, they wanted to put out, or maybe they didn't care as much about the story and they just wanted to focus more on the gameplay, which I'll get to. I think the gameplay definitely had more things to, more things that shined about it, more positive things I could say about it. But yeah, the world, basically, kind of how the description of the game said, you're set on this island where nobody can escape. Anyone who tries to escape by ship or by air, their planes crash, their ships turn right back around and crash into the land. So they're trapped here with a bunch of monsters and things. And the main character, I believe, was searching for some sort of artifact when she got transported to the island with her partner, her not like her romantic partner, but like her, partner in crime, her, colleague, whatever. Anyway, yeah, so she gets separated from her partner and she's essentially trying to search for both the artifact, search for her partner, and search for a way out of the island. But oh no, there happens to also be a bunch of monsters here. And she runs into this altar, this statue that gives her special powers. And also she gets accompanied by this dragon spirit that gives her the ability to rewind time, which is like the core feature, the core selling point of the game. I mean, it's called Blades of Time. So yeah, story, nothing, super crazy going on as far as I got through it, but enough to get the gameplay, to accompany the gameplay, I guess you could say. Even the world design, like, it felt like fantasy, but it felt like generic fantasy. Like everything felt fantastical. Everything felt like fantasy, but in a generic way, something that you've seen a million times in other games. And again, it kind of, the game, I'll give it to it. It's kind of pretty, especially for a 2012 game. It's not a bad looking game. The world is interesting to look at. It's not, completely boring to look at. So I give it that. And like even the little bit of lore, like, how sometimes in games you'll find like pages of a journal or little things that you can read. Even the lore and things of that sort, like the journal entries that you would find as you explore the game, felt very generic, and they didn't really tell you much about the world or anything interesting. At least they were just these, it would be like a captain of a ship who got stranded, and they're talking about how they, I don't know, ate potatoes for dinner or like killed a crab or something. Nothing very, worth remembering. And like even moving on to the dialogue, I was really hoping that this game would be like one of those really like campy, like quirky, stupid games with fun dialogue where the main character, says a lot of quirky things. But fortunately I was disappointed on that front too.
God, it's so hot here. It's unbearable. I hope this path won't lead me to the center of the world. If I hadn't come here on my own, I'd have thought that I was in hell right now. Or maybe I am in hell. Oh well, who knows? What's going on? Have I stumbled into something again? Oh no. Damn it. These ancient places are always full of surprises.
So now I guess we'll talk about the characters. Oh man. Start with the main character, Ayumi. Oh, what a doll. What a wonderful girl. Bless her heart. What a bimbo. I was hoping, she would be like a quirky character, but she kind of talks a lot and says nothing interesting at the same time. I was hoping she would like kind of make some witty jokes and things like that, but she kind of just tends to point out the obvious and like, say things that don't really need to be said, and does it quite often. Doesn't seem to be a lot of depth with her character. She's just like sexy girl who has swords and guns and magical powers and, kind of generic action game protagonist. And yeah, fortunately, not really much going on there. As far as I got through the game, we didn't meet a lot of side characters, but there were a few. There was her partner, Zero, who, again, kind of a generic, big, strong guy, has a big weapon, and he's real tough, real stoic, and not really much to him. You actually spend a little bit of time looking for him in the game, and then once you finally meet him, you kind of exchange like 2 sentences with each other, like nothing happened, like I wasn't just looking for you for like 3 hours, and then he disappears again. Aside from him, there's another character who I'm pretty sure kind of gets set up to be the like one of the antagonists. Her name is Michelle. Michelle, I love her. In her defense, didn't really get to, see a whole lot of her. Didn't get that far in the game. Who knows? Maybe if I'm feeling brave enough, I'll go back to this game and actually finish it and give my final opinions on it. But I really just wanted to make a video on it because I just wanted to rant. But yeah, she's interesting character. Again, another sexy girl with, guns and tough and, fights monsters. And she was like being set up to be sort of the antagonist of the game, so not really much there. Didn't really get to see much of her, but I would have liked to see more. Aside from that, not really any other characters. There's the altar that I mentioned and the dragon spirit girl that looks exactly like Ayumi, that follows her around and gives her magical powers. Don't really know what that's about, but yeah. It was even sort of to the point where like, I remember when you get to Michelle's ship where her crew is, literally every character in her crew is one model, like one like character, and they all look identical. Like this one guy introduces himself and says his name, and then you have a short conversation with him, and then you walk down to the ship and everyone else looks exactly like him, and there's like 100 of them. So I'm assuming this game was definitely done on a tight budget, and maybe it was a small studio, so I don't want to be too harsh on the game, but definitely has its flaws. Now, moving on to the mechanics of the game and just the design of the game in general, still have some qualms, but there actually is some good things I can say about it, some interesting things that I kind of took from it. Now, this game is clearly like a Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, Tomb Raider clone. You have some pretty standard abilities. You have swords. Your character wields dual swords, and she also has a rifle that you can use. And she, like I mentioned, which I'll get more into in a second, but she has the ability to sort of rewind time. And she also has some other special abilities like fire and like this kind of force push thing and a freezing ability. So, kind of, again, generic magical abilities. The overall controls and feel of the game were pretty good, pretty solid. Didn't really have too many complaints, although sometimes certain like actions, like I would have it bound to a certain key and it just like wouldn't work, or not even that it wouldn't work, but it just didn't work in a way that was very intuitive. So like, for example, there's like a lock-on ability, but you have to be a certain distance and you have to look at the object that you're trying to lock onto from a certain angle, and it was just like, if you didn't do it very specifically, it wouldn't work. So that was one kind of issue I had with the mechanics. But as far as like shooting and slicing and jumping and all that, felt pretty standard. Didn't feel too bad. The only mechanic that like really, really pissed me off is a simple one. She runs so slow and there's no sprint. I actually looked into the controls for a sprint button and it said, this is the button to sprint, but it was actually the button to walk. It wasn't to sprint. It was to change to walking. So when I press the button, she starts walking even slower. And she runs at like 5 miles per hour. So it's kind of frustrating when you're trying to like traverse these big areas, but you're moving so slow. So that was another thing that I didn't like. But you do have a dash ability, but it's one of those dashes where once you press it, you kind of slow down for a second and sit in place. So, kind of cancels out. Wasn't very helpful for traversing long distances, but yeah. Now, to talk about the saving grace of this game, the main appeal, the core, the key selling point of the game, the time mechanics. This, I will say, was interesting. This mechanic was confusing, to say the least, to figure out, because either it's just not it's not explained very well. You kind of get like a short tutorial, not even a tutorial, like a few lines of text explaining the ability, and usually when it's time to use the ability, you're using it in like live scenarios. So you'll have to defeat a boss using the ability, but it'll just give you a line of text telling you how you need to do it. And essentially the way the ability works is like you're just rewinding time. Like your actions, your moves are recorded, and when you press tab and you hold it, you essentially rewind time for an allotted period of time that you decide. That basically however long you hold it is how far back in time it goes. Now, the thing that was weird about it is if you're attacking an enemy and you rewind time, that enemy regains their health, and if you get attacked, if you get hit, you lose your health. So if you get hit and you pressed heal and you use the ability, then you'll take damage again, which was kind of weird to me. I didn't really get that about it. But conversely, you could use that ability to essentially do more damage to enemies. So if you damage an enemy and then you rewind it and then you're hitting the enemy again, once your shadow, we'll call it, is hitting the enemy, you can also hit the enemy again to sort of deal double damage, which I thought was pretty cool. And they sort of used that as a mechanic for certain bosses, that you need to use your shade, use your time ability in order to deal more damage, in order to either take down a shield, to take down like a regenerative ability that the boss had. So one thing I'll give to the game is that each of the bosses, there's sort of a unique quirk that you have to figure out in order to defeat the boss, which a lot of games do, is kind of standard, but I feel like this game did it in a way that is, interesting with the time abilities. So that's kind of the saving grace of this game. I think the time abilities, while it is implemented a bit weirdly and it's kind of tricky to get your finger on at first, um, it's used in unique ways, and it's, you know, I feel like another game or another studio, or maybe even this studio, if they make a new game, I don't know, who knows, they can kind of build upon that and take it to a level that's even cooler and works even better. And that's definitely something that I gotta give props to. And that's sort of another one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video, is because like I want to search for more obscure games that do cool things that maybe haven't really been done a lot in gaming, and or just have, you know, some sort of unique charm, you know, makes it unique in its own way, even if it didn't receive like a lot of commercial success. And I was kind of hoping that this game would be one of those games, but you know, not really. The time ability is pretty much the only like really good thing I have to say about the game, and it's honestly kind of just okay. And the reason I just like couldn't finish, like I wanted to kind of play the whole game in one sitting. I think it's only like a couple hours long, maybe like 6 to 7 hours, I think. After a certain point, the game just kind of felt like a chore to me. Like there was nothing interesting enough keeping me playing the game. Like the mechanics were pretty generic, pretty standard, wasn't anything super crazy. Story was non-existent, dialogue sucked, characters generic, so there's just nothing that was really tying me, feeling like I was like getting joy out of my time with the game. It wasn't even like horrible enough to where I could make fun of it. It's not a terrible game, it's just pretty mid. So yeah, but I guess the good thing about playing bad or mid games sometimes is it makes you appreciate the good games that you do play more. And I think there's some value in playing bad or mid games, or just trying new games in general. Obviously it costs money, so me personally, I don't like spending a lot of money on something I don't think I'm going to play, but if you find something on sale that you haven't tried before, give it a shot. But yeah, even if it's bad, it makes you appreciate the good games more, and when it makes you recognize when mechanics are good, when a story is good. It makes you like more well-rounded, and this goes for all media, like movies or TV or manga, anime, whatever. Like the more you watch, the more you play, the more you experience, the broader your palette becomes, and you're able to enjoy good things even more because you know what the bad things are like. So in that sense, that's one positive I can take from this experience. And the other thing I want to say is I just want more stupid campy games. I want games like Lollipop Chainsaw. I want games like Bayonetta. I want games like Resident Evil 4 and 5. I want games like, you know, Devil May Cry. Like I just want games that are just stupid and fun, and like don't care about being outlandish and outrageous. And if you guys, any of you watching, know any games like that that aren't as popular, let me know. Put them in the comments so I can try them out. Thank you. And moving forward on the channel, that's actually something that I really want to set out to do, is I want to try to find more obscure games, or games that, you know, don't get talked about as much or didn't get talked about as much at their time. And I want to play through them and just kind of give my thoughts on them. Nothing super crazy, nothing super in depth, but, you know, just kind of giving my thoughts about what makes the game unique, what I enjoyed about it. Videos like this, except more positive. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. So if you guys enjoy the video, if you guys enjoyed me talking about this wonderful, wonderful game, I've got plenty more content on the way. Leave a like, leave a comment, maybe even subscribe, maybe even follow me on Twitch. I stream on Twitch as much as I can, so be sure to check out the content there. And yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay blessed.